Good afternoon and welcome to Answers from the Universe. I've just, inappropriately put a link on Jessica's page to show her the chaotic, dramatic arrival of my new cat, and as you can hear, it's quite a humorous thing. She arrived about 2 hours ago. She came out of the box that we'd put her in, and she was out like a dervish. She literally, I'm not kidding. She's a tiny cat, right? She's like a small cat, not one of these big Maine Coons. She's opposite. She's tiny, and she literally ran up the door, up the kitchen door, onto the shelf along the side, ran down, then ran underneath the table, then jumped up onto the surface, and then ran along all my shelves, which have got jars by the dozen, poised delicately, and that's the sound of the smashing you can hear. She's just running. You know when somebody runs along a supermarket and they just knock all the cans off the shelves?
It was very funny. I was looking at it, so they can look at your website.
Yeah, it's on my Facebook page.
I was going to say a silent film, but you can really hear everything banging around.
It's a complete chaos. It's very funny. Yeah, Nicole saw it. She's just seen it. But anyway, that's my dramatic day so far. So.
One of many ahead of you.
Oh yeah, sure. Plenty of drama. Yeah, but she's such a sweetheart, and she's one of these semi-feral, so she doesn't like people really, and so she's going, meow, I'm so lonely. It's all right. You remember me? And I started playing my guitar, and that calmed her down as well. Playing Clarabelle, good old Clarabelle.
It calms down everybody.
Yeah, music soothes the savage beast.
Yes, it does. And, so we have a lot of interesting things happening. You have the entrance of your new cat, and you have had a first happen last night on the Max Steel show.
Oh yeah, we've had our first proposal. I called the show A Decent Proposal. So you'll be able to find that in the archives, and yes. we'll save it for people to just have a listen to the show. What actually happened? What that indeed proposal was.
Can I say it? I just want to congratulate them.
Yeah, indeed.
They're engaged.
Yes.
So it was beautiful. We got to hear the interaction going back and forth, and very moving, and probably one of the most moving shows that Max has done that I know of.
Yeah, it was very personal. It was a very personal show going on last night.
So, sometimes seeing an aspect of a person, we try to be strong, but there are the elements of our feeling fragile in a world of in areas where you don't have control over, and so it's something that everyone can relate to, and even when we're going to be talking about different things today, where we talk about these beings and they're from other places and they might have a little bit of their superpowers here and there, but you still see the element, that strand of feeling fragile about something that happened. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part where we can all sort of connect and understand that we all have, everyone, even other beings have their point of vulnerability, and so that's what kind of brings our world a little closer, and understanding that we're all on this big journey together.
Journeys.
So, yes.
Journeys. Yes, we've been doing some journeys. It's really interesting, this little journey process that I've been figuring out. I've been just basically every friend who comes to see me or I speak to on the phone eventually gets one. It's very releasing. It's really, it really, really does help. And, so I've got a whole bunch of testimonials on my website now. So I'm really very pleased with that, on Ever Beyond Radio. So, it's, Andronicus, I think, has had some part in it. It's like everybody I've spoken to has a little part in this process, in figuring out how to release those locked up inner children. Or indeed inner soul fragments. I think that's, the same as soul fragments on a larger scale.
Well, there's something came up today that it's kind of a universal fragment actually that comes up in something that we're talking about, and it's not just an etheric fragment, but something else that Andronicus talks about today.
Very interesting.
That kind of, when he started talking about it, I began to have a memory of it, and it was like a bridge. It was a bridge that I could have gone over, but I didn't. But others went there. And when we get into the transmission, we'll get deeper into that conversation.
Intrigue and clues. How amazing. Listen, I need to go and get my cup of tea, which is sitting on the top of the stove. I need to very carefully... all my house is airlock protocol, which means you have to open a door, close it behind you. Open the next door, close that behind you. Just like an airlock, so that the cat doesn't get out.
You are a prisoner in your own home.
I'm in prison. Let me out. Habeas corpus.
The little creature is going to bring you into subservience.
That's right. I just like this tiny little thing going to dominate my life for the next 6 months. Yeah. No, she'll be fine. So do you want to give a kind of general introduction to today's transmissions while I go and get my cup of tea?
Yeah, well, I was wondering maybe we could bring in Wild Feather while you're doing that and have a nice little conversation, and you can come in and join us if she's around.
That's a good idea. So let's just add her to the group call right now. And there she is, hiding behind the tree. Come out, wherever you are, Feather Wild. Feather Wild, Wild Feather. She's being very... There we are. Hello, Feather. How are you?
Oh, I got my mute mic. I have my mute mic. I might mute. Whatever.
Might mute Feather Wild, Wild Feather.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good and finally having some warm weather. Been so cold for June.
Where do you live, Feather?
Just a couple hours north of you in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're neighbors.
Just about, yeah. For New England, it's, everything's an hour or two away, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Newburyport.
Oh, yeah. I've been there once.
Okay. And we're
right on the beach. That's nice.
Yeah. Where in New Hampshire are you at?
I'm in the southern part, so I'm I'm talking between Concord and Keene.
Okay.
So
now, not long ago, Olivia shared some of her beautiful artwork that she did. Olivia lives in France, originally from South Africa, and began comprising these beautiful paintings, and then having a stream of consciousness come through, and she started writing what looks like a language, but it almost could be a few different languages. And so then you got a download of information that you wanted to share with everyone regarding it. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. It's kind of, I'm finding myself very emotional over it at the moment. I have done journeying, shamanic journeying in the past. And so I thought I would approach it from that perspective because, especially the one with all the writing on it really grabbed my attention and almost like drew me right in. And I'm like, there's some message in that. I could just tell there was a message in it. So I decided to try a journey and see what I got, and I got kind of like pulled into
memories. Was it triggered?
Yeah, or something. It was like I got pulled into a stargate, or I was seeing what I would call a stargate. Like there was this opening of a stargate, and there was this woman there, and it took a little while because I had to kind of trust what was I seeing, was this really real, and all that. But it was more vivid than any journey I have done before. Even seeing the painting in my mind, I could see every single detail, even though it wasn't right in front of me. So even that was vivid. It was more vivid in the journey. And there was this woman there, and we were talking, and basically she told me that they were what we would consider a Mayan civilization, but they were different, and that this was a code that they had sent. And you might hear tractors going by where it's haying season and everybody's haying around me.
Okay.
Sorry about it. Just through me too. So we talked, and what I understood is they left our dimension.
This group that seemed like Mayans, or?
Yeah. That, from what I understand, they left our dimension and went into another dimension because they saw this darkness coming, and they wanted to get away from it. They saw it spreading, and they were in fear for losing their civilization. So somehow they created this code, and I kept getting that it was like a time code, a time lock, something like that, and that's what she explained. It was like it locked them out of our dimension and into another one.
It reminds me of the Anasazi tribe that just disappeared. They were living in the kind of this carved kind of housing that was carved right into the stone of the Southwest. Yeah. Right.
And what she said, that their area covered their civilization was from, it did go into North America and into South America. So the central location obviously would be Central America, but that was basically their area. So that's why she said they weren't specifically Mayan, but that's what we would have termed that group.
Right, yeah, it could have been, some, they were interconnected, but maybe had, expanded out, and then, the tribes had been separated in some way. Right. You mentioned, that there was something about a blue stones that caught your eye, some inlaid, Mayan headdress with, precious stones.
Yeah, yes, actually I saw that first before things became clearer, and I realized I was actually talking with somebody through like what I can only term as a Stargate, because that's what I got for a reference, I lost my train of thought.
Stargate.
Stargate, and you were asking me about the headdress, and that's what I saw first, and it was like, had these incredibly blue stones, and it was gold, and I may have seen something similar in pictures, but it wasn't what I had seen in pictures. And that really caught that's kind of what I saw first. And then when I saw this woman, she was kind of wearing it.
Okay, and then, let's see, you talked about the time code, and then you said about a time portal, and the vision of the Stargate, and she said this painting in time, they called it a codex, right? You said?
Yeah, that was the understanding that I got, was it was a type of codex or time code. Those were the words that were the way that I could understand it.
All right. So, further, when I hear the word time code,
yep.
It's for me, it's very literally, this is a point in space and time. That's what it means. It's like, a time code is, we are, for instance, 15 minutes, 35 seconds into the show. That's a time code. Or a time stamp. That's what we call a time stamp. So a time stamp signifies a particular time and place that this is now. Or a time code can then be the time against which this action, like a schedule, this action will occur on this place at this time. Do either of those definitions apply to what you're talking about?
I'm not sure. Let me think. Yeah, I think it is a specific time that they locked so that they were out of this dimension. So,
what were they chasing from exactly? What were they running from?
I got some more information, and it's really kind of bizarre, but it sounded like that they were a relatively peaceful civilization, and they started to see disturbances in the way people were behaving. This, like, virus, they call it. I know. It comes back to other things you guys talked about, and they said it was this, like, darkness that these people would just do unexplained crazy things. They would steal from other people, and they didn't really have that in this civilization because they all worked together. And then, there was murders and things like that, and that was so out of the norm for them. And they saw that coming, like, across the planet, because they weren't just localized, as I understand it. They were interconnected with other peoples on the earth. So they saw this coming and spreading, and they didn't want to be any part of it.
All right. Well, that sounds... Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
It's an intrusion of another species coming in that influences the consciousness of some that don't recognize that, it's the added voice, the other voices that come in and influence that didn't exist before. So it taints the innocence of the culture. And some of those that were aware made other decisions and were able to make decisions. Those whose consciousness were not high enough and not aware of the difference and the separateness of whatever this energy was, and they refused to, those that didn't know the separateness of it took it in as if it was their own and began to go along with this type of lower consciousness. So that's what happened, is you have these species that come in of different ranging, of different consciousness that influences the times. And then only the difference is some are aware of it and some aren't. And the importance is that we are prepared for that. We are aware of anything else that tries to come in, and then also separate ourselves from the voices of and implications and influences of these beings that have been here for a long time but are now being removed, and people are noticing that they're having maybe less of that bombarding their consciousness and their stream of thought. So I think that's what you're talking about, Feather.
Yeah, it sounds like that in a nutshell. It definitely was, and they said that, and they said there were casualties. They didn't want to do that, but they were looking out for their society as a whole. And, and that they had councils that got together to make those decisions, so that they could do this. And obviously they had the knowledge to know how to do it too.
JP, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Then?
Then?
I can't remember what it is now.
Oh, no.
You know how it
Sorry.
goes. It's all right.
Sorry.
So, that's all right, not a problem. You see, one of the things that this strikes me is, I can't remember when I got it. I got a flash that there was a moment in the ancient times when there was a war going on where I believe that this is, I don't know where or when this was, but there was a civilization that was going to be attacked by an asteroid, like throwing, kinetic, asteroid weapon. So what they did is that they created a time bubble that phased out their reality and slowed time down outside of their domain. So that they're still living, but they're slightly shifted and phased out. And I was wondering if that's the same people that I perceived in that sort of little flash there.
Could be.
Yeah, it sounds intriguing because I think there was not only this darkness, but they also expected catastrophic events.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hang on. The darkness. That's right. So this, again, goes back to Alex Collier's introductory story is 800 years in the future, they find that there is darkness all over the galaxy. And what you're talking about is the point where it entered. And the darkness, I believe, is the PPAI. The pathogenic, predatory, artificial intelligence. Or black goo.
Right.
Just overtaking. That's the potential future.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally it is a darkness. It is black. It's gooey. It covers the universe. Splatters everywhere. So.
Yep.
Or, Kraton talks about that.
Yeah.
And he said that it was the darkness remember he was absorbing the darkness because the darkness exists, but it's the consciousness that created that, which is essentially, yes, it could be the PPAI, but, essentially it's just the consciousness of all living things. And then it creates a density which creates the black hole. And he was sharing how someone had to pull that darkness and carry it and draw it in so that there would still be that balance of light and dark in the universe. So it's just another way of looking at it.
Right, and they said that the Earth would look there like an Earth. They explained it like there's layers of dimensions, like an onion skin, and they're on another dimension, but it's still the Earth, and it would look familiar to us, not exact because of the way we changed things up a bit, so it wouldn't look exact, but we would recognize it as planet Earth.
It's interesting. So, that all came from looking at a picture of Olivia's picture.
Just one picture. That's all it took.
Yep.
Just one look. I'm going to have to find that now. My God, that's from the 1960s. Just one look. I'll find it.
That's all it took.
That's all it took.
Yeah, and so people think, well, they share something, and they don't think it's a big deal, and as someone else might put the pieces together and connect the dots for them. And Olivia and I talked about let's connect the dots, and Olivia has an interesting story too. I don't know if she wants to share it at some point, but we all have little pieces of information, and I like it that we're having people join us in these conversations with the Andronicus transmissions. So we're probably going to have to get into reading the transmissions, but thank you so much, Feather, for joining us and sharing that information, and another thank you to Olivia for inspiring the whole conversation in the first place.
Thank you. Yes, I had a conversation last week with Olivia, and in the short, it was a lot of confirmation that she was getting similar feelings, so it was quite amazing. And thank you, Jess, for being the first window, so to speak.
You're welcome. And JP.
Well, there we go. I found it.
Just one look. That's all it took, yeah. Just one look. That's all it took, yeah. Just one look.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt so
So
awesome.
that's the Hollies there. Yeah.
The Hollies.
Yeah, the Hollies. The he ain't heavy, here's my brother. What a brilliant singer that guy was. Anyhow.
I love all that old stuff. That's great music.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a friend of mine to learn the harmonica part of that. But, it's a little high for me, but I just love that song. Anyhow, thank you so much, Wildfeather. Has she gone? She's away. So it's
awesome.
It's just us now. So isn't that brilliant? Isn't that brilliant? It's sparking stuff. It's sparking creativity. It's sparking people making pictures. It has, I just want to say happy birthday, Andronicus.
Yeah.
It's
it's
a year ago.
Yep. And it is number 50 transmission.
That's right. So we've been doing this 50 out of 52 weeks. That's what it means.
Half a century.
Yeah. Actually, you've been doing this. You've been sitting down and very patiently taking down and very, very accurately taking down what these people have been saying to you.
Yep.
And, no matter how, disparaging they are towards you, actually, And it's not something that you'd make up, unless you had a very kind of strange, twisted mentality, which you don't. That you'd make up characters that would insult you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It adds a sense of authenticity,
I suppose. The reason why they're insulting me is because I can see them and they're telling me to back off. They're doing things that either they're not supposed to do or don't want it to be revealed. And so, I'm catching them, but to be true to form in the conversation, I'm including what is also being stated, which could be very insultive toward me. But it's literally part of the conversation, but you can see the nature of what I'm dealing with. And especially, I find that since they know that I'm aware of them, sometimes they intrude into my life, and then there's the conflict, because I don't want them entangling into my life or influencing others around my life. And so, and this is how I manage it. It's sort of, this is my personality, but, no, I don't, sit there and insult myself back and forth.
Yeah, some people might have this little inner voice, that, is basically, it's usually your mother, right? If you got a little inner voice in your head that keeps telling you to do things, that is insulting you and putting you down, it's usually your mother. just, there's a free psychology advice from JP. It's usually your mother. Oh, excellent. So shall we?
To share Tektatron, because he's supposed to be the first one, and we really have it out. We have it out, Tektatron and I.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay.
Yeah, you'll see why, and I'll tell you what, you might feel the same way when you find out what he's up to.
Well, I know he's not a very he's not the sharpest in the penknife. The sharpest attachment.
He's not the sharpest, but he's dangerous in some ways.
Yeah. Well,
But this is going to give you some insight into the Archons.
Okay, so here we go. Tektatron.
I see you saw Adrian lately. You didn't seem to have much to talk about.
I thought he left you. You're still in communication with him?
Why, of course. How can he not speak to me? Where else would he go?
I don't know. I thought he may prefer freedom over having an overseer.
Not everyone wants to be free. Many of you like being told what to do. After all, I have information about everything. He has his faults and a bit of a temper. I try to get him to see the reality of things.
Tektatron, what is your reality? Is your mission to control others?
Yes, and I like to win. You don't do well with table games, I heard. A bit of a sore loser like Adrian.
I don't like any type of games that require mind games. Why don't you come clean and say who you are and what you are and why you're here?
Adrian is now one of us, and we want to control the way things go on your planet. You refer to us as Archons, but I see that we are the illuminated ones. It is so much lovelier than Archon. Who would think of such a term? They are temporal in their thinking, not immortal. Why ponder their importance?
You were a clone of some other immortal being who lived on the planet or elsewhere. You're not as the originals. You're a timestamp, an artifact, similar in appearance but lacking the true essence of anything divine. You are devoid of truth and light, only holding malevolence as your banner.
Oh, how descriptive and insightful, but hardly true. We were informed we embody the exact likeness of our former selves. I remember many things that happened to the original form. I was once Hermes. That's how Adrian sees me. He can see no other. He knew Hermes and remembers me.
I knew Hermes, but I don't remember you. You are a robot, a soulless being, an empty tin can. Let's be honest. I will not go along with your games and lie to deceive others.
You see, there are many Hermes on the planet. We were created because the original one was weak and burnt in a fire.
What fire? I don't remember any fire in Hermes dying. He's immortal. How can an immortal die? Explain that to me.
He rebelled from Apollo and drove himself into the sun. They had closed the sun gate and he drove into the fire and never returned.
If that happened, then I will find out about it. Then how did you get his DNA if he was gone?
We all have the baseline of Andronicus. You know that. The extraction of all the ancient's blood, life force, is at our disposal. We can revive ourselves at any time.
If you were Hermes, what was the memory of being in the fire of the sun?
It was invigorating, like a new birth. I shed my old skin and here I am, anew.
You're crafty like him, but not him. I will never call you Hermes. You came to me in a dream this morning, didn't you?
I warned you again to stay out of my way.
How did I step on your toes this time? I'm not aware of it.
You know what you did. Changing things in the timelines, removing people from my control, removing power from our sorcerers. You need to keep your hands off and be a good little goddess and be on your way.
You know, you don't have any jurisdiction here. The airways are not yours, and I will see to it that you are disclosed for your actions before the higher realms. You can fool others, but you don't fool me. I know who everyone is, or was. There's nothing you can do about it. Stop harming humans. That is final. I will tell everyone what you're doing.
You're not a lot of fun, are you? Always doing the right thing. Look where it got you. Alone, poor and trapped. That's what I do to all who don't obey my system.
Why don't you be a good little robot and find what makes you, Find your make-believe planet on your make-believe world where you make-believe that you have this identity, and then be on your way.
Very well. You want to play hardball. I can do that as well. You will have to get through Adrian before you can get to me.
Then I got a sick feeling thinking I would have to deal with Ares, the demolition man. He was very hard-headed and generally difficult to talk to. If he gets worked up, it's even harder.
Oh, Adrian, look who's come to visit.
What does she want?
She claims I am not Hermes. Isn't that ridiculous?
She doesn't listen very well, does she?
I agree. We should not speak to her anymore and let her find her own way.
When you learn to listen, we will speak to you again. Otherwise, be on your way.
Ares, how can you believe he's Hermes? Hermes would never dress like that. What is he wearing? Some type of odd jacket. Big shoulders. Can he fly?
Why do you wear that jacket, and why don't you fly?
I fly when you are sleeping. I like this jacket. It is my favourite colour of purple.
Aye, now that I think about it, I never saw you fly. You only transport. Yeah. The door slams hard.
Go on now. Get out. Leave us alone.
Tic-tac-toe, I win.
Yeah, Adrian's, now he's from Glasgow. Sorry. I just needed some voice. He's from Glasgow today.
He could be from anywhere. Yeah, so he's... See, he's an Archon. I was wondering, what is he? I thought he was a robot. And he claims that he was Hermes, so then he was part of that DNA where they pulled from Andronicus, and then they added some DNA of whichever one they can get away with. But he claims that there's many Hermeses clones on the planet.
Is this the genetic royal strain that all the humans have, like kind of by accident?
Could be. I'm not sure.
Because he says we're all from Andronicus, right at the beginning. He says that, doesn't he?
Well, he was saying that all the Archons are. Remember, the Archons were created from Hera having him in that that opium den.
And they extracted his blood all the time.
Yeah.
And being immortal, they could bleed him, and then he'd heal himself very quickly.
He was the baseline for all the Archons.
Yeah. So, now we know their signature. Ha ha ha. We know your signature, Tektatron. Da, 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 da. So, I hope the guy's upset, because that, he's just revealed that. He's just revealed who the Archons are.
Yeah, he came right, well, obviously he doesn't think anyone can do anything about it, but there's a very programmed way about him, and he's, kind of very assuming, it seems like he's full of power, but, the one thing that I noticed when I was looking at him, he was wearing this really weird jacket. It almost looked like there was a coat hanger in his, coming out of his shoulders.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? It was just really big and accentuated. So that the shoulders were much higher and then, went beyond where the shoulders would have been.
Like he had wings under the jacket?
No, it was just he was accentuating as if he had shoulder pads, know.
But it was a footballer.
It was angular, coming out of his, above his shoulders, probably about 5 inches or so, and then out beyond his shoulders. So you know what a coat hanger looks like.
Mm-hmm.
If say you put a coat hanger, a
In your
large
jacket.
coat hanger in your jacket, that's what it looked like.
Bless his little robotic pump. bless his little solenoids. Anyway, so he's and this jacket is like okay. So can you describe his skin?
His skin, it looked Caucasian looking, white. Like he wasn't pure white.
All right, so he doesn't look like a robot.
No, he looks humanoid.
Uh-huh. All right. So, the thing about this voice is because of the way the system works, to get that low pitch, there's a slight delay in it. And so I can't really hear what I'm saying until I've said it, or just a little second afterwards. So it makes me actually speak this kind of slightly slow, slightly deaf. It's like how a deaf person speaks. You know.
Yeah, but no, it's coming. It's sounding. I was concerned that it wasn't loud enough that people could hear it, but it's sounding very much like the way he sounds. It's very.
All right, I'll just turn up my my feed for your end.
Okay.
Because it's coming through quite loud on the other side. So.
All right. Yeah. He talks very much like that.
All right.
It sounds that kind of that robotic sound, and he's very assuming.
Yeah, he's condescending.
He's very, very condescending. Yeah. And kind of like, I think in some ways he was trying to pull me in at times, like, Adrian's following my lead, you should be doing the same thing. But he's a clone. So even though he has many of the aspects, he doesn't actually have the original soul. He's not the being.
Yeah.
So, and I was really feeling there was an absence. I called him a tin can. I didn't know what else to say.
Exactly. Great. Perfect.
Something was empty.
Yeah. Toaster. He's just a toaster.
Yeah, but, complex in a lot of ways and very tricky, and has probably many of the attributes, genetically has some of the attributes of Hermes, but was not able to fly for some reason, and I picked that up and I brought that to Adrian's attention.
Oh, maybe they are his wings then.
I don't know.
Because actually Hermes had wings on his feet, but...
Yeah, he did.
Like the guy in Cloud Atlas. You remember this guy had winged boots? Mm-hmm. This wolf creature. So, there we go. Should we do another one?
Yeah, I just want to bring up, so he showed up in my dreams this morning.
Oh yeah, so, I mean, what did you do? What did he say?
He was angry at me. He's like, get out of my space. Stop meddling with what I'm doing. And I didn't know at first because he had a different voice then when he came to me in my dreams. But that's when I figured out, I was like, well, who was that? Someone just threatened me. And it was, a lucid dream. It wasn't. And I could see him.
I think they're just really, just now they're posing. They can't do anything. There's nothing, they can't touch us.
In my dream, he looked like, did you ever watch The Midsummer's Night Dream with Michelle Pfeiffer? And there's an actor who, plays like not Pan, like the primary, head of that whole realm. And he's very kind of cruel and, manipulative. Very haughty. Haughty meaning arrogant.
Yeah. Superior.
Yeah. He looked like that actor. He presented himself as that actor, as a British actor. I wish I could possibly get the name if we do a break.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do a break soon. So,
but yeah, anyhow, so we can go on the next one. So the next one would be Rhodan. Lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt. No, I think lightning bolt was, let me just check so I don't press the wrong one. Number 5, lightning bolt. I see you've been stirring things up on the planet. The wizards, the archons, the black hell dogs, all complaining about your activity. Well done. This is what you're supposed to do. Remind them of our presence. Oh. I'm frightened by my own thunder. Odin. Anyway. Well done. This is what you were supposed to do. Remind them of our presence. We are watching them, those who got away with many things for a very long time. You are protected, and so are others who take up the task of being a helper on the planet. Don't get caught up with their drama. This is what they do to distract people. They hide the bigger issues, and beneath it all in a maelstrom of problems from an unwatched doorway. One problem after another that doesn't happen because the artifacts are being found and caught before they detonate their next attack to control or manipulate. It appears as if none of this is true. This becomes another way that they can lie and persuade the masses to walk blindly as to what happens before their eyes. There will come a time that the truth of what has been happening will be revealed. No one will have to say much. All will know. My greatest concern on Earth is not the bombs, the intruders, the miscommunications, the trickery, but the heavy overlay of deception. I remove it and return to find that 2 more veils of untruths have been planted into the minds of the masses. I remove the 2 untruths and 4 more embedded into the masses. They are diligent and hard-working for mass deception. Yet there is a ray of hope. The hearts and minds of mankind striving for truth opens the windows into the skies above. Their weeping and their desire for sovereignty remains in the thresholds of the heavens. It is there, accessible as always. Return back to what you know and have always known about who you are and why you're here. Remember who you are. This is the first and foremost truth. Once you remember who you are, then you can remember why you are here. This is the second truth. The third truth is that you're all interconnected. And the fourth truth is that you are forever divinely connected. Regardless of all things around you, remain in these truths. Keep rock solid in your faith of love and divine connection. This is your foundation where you will never plummet from. It sustains you in ways that builds a fortress of protection unlike any other. The most powerful of all is love. Dwell there always. Peace to you and all mankind. Rhodan.
So it's a short but sweet communication this week. But I felt like you said a lot in a...
Yeah. Phew. And very profound and very, very much standing in the law.
Mm-hmm. Consistency.
There's a sense, this sense that, it was very, like you said, if you have a solid foundation, there's nowhere you can fall.
Right.
So.
It's interesting how he laid out the 4 truths.
Mm.
I'm sure there are many others, but that's what he felt that we needed at this time. And that's what builds the foundation.
Who you are, why you're here, we're all interconnected, and we're forever divinely connected. That's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
So, shall we play a tune?
Yes.
I'll just play that tune. Just One Look by the Hollies.
You can do that one?
Yeah, well, why not? Unless you've got another idea. Sorry, we weren't online just then. That just connected us back because I had to take us offline with buttons. I have to put us back online with buttons. So welcome back. So all this stuff. Welcome back to Answers from the Universe with Jessica Morocco, and here she is.
Hello. Yeah, so I was just saying that we were talking about that song by Disturbed. The the voice is very reminiscent of the Titan kind of sounds that I hear. You know, that very deep, echoey kind of voice without, now, as opposed to Tektatron, which is this robotic sound. Their deep just has this very deep, resonance.
Yeah, like an opera singer's voice. Like Borkum. You know, Borkum is
that's
definitely.
What I was trying to tell you. You know, this is.
It's all down in the chest cavity. You know, Brian Blessed. I can think of his name now. Brian Blessed. That's his name. Look up Brian Blessed. That's my character.
Maybe if you have a sound clip of him, we can hear it.
I had this. There's a story of Brian Blessed who goes to he's a British actor, and he plays people like Henry VIII, you know, that sort of character. And he went to the Arctic Circle and camped out with some Norwegians and stuff. And a polar bear poked his head into the tent, and he punched the polar bear on the nose, right at the end of the nose. Give it a good whack, and the polar bear just ran away. So, I mean, that kind of character, that's Borkum, isn't it? Borkum would punch a polar bear.
Yes. Yeah. All of them would, as a matter of fact. Tektatron, Triton, you know, that whole story about, Triton cutting off the arm of Ketron, and then it just grew back. But they were, you know, they're just used to that kind of rough play, you know.
Yeah, not treated very roughly,
Yeah. Pretty resilient, though.
Yeah. More robust than Earth humans.
Yeah. There was, so we're probably going to go on to Andronicus next, but I was going to look up something. But, I was going to say that some of that robust sound, it's kind of Scottish too, isn't it? Don't they have that?
There are some, there are some Scots with very, it's resonant. I think the word you're looking for is resonant voice. Like a double bass, you know, and it's all about the cavity. It's like it's the chest cavity and the vibration that you can carry in there, and you know how big your lungs can be. Ooh, even down to the base center. So you start off at the throat center, then through the heart center, and then through the solar plexus, and then through the sacral center, and then down to the base center. You can hear the bass just turning up, and then turning up, and back up to the head center.
Just did a sacral clearing or a chakra clearing.
Chakra cleansing. Anyway, so shall we move on to good old Andronicus?
Yes. And you know what? Like I said, I transmit this information. I know that some people have asked me about different things, like why are you bringing this stuff up? But I have to bring certain things up. He is going to touch on the Nazi subject. And the stuff just keeps on wanting to emerge until we understand it. And once we understand it, then we can release it and let it go. And it's not to bring fear. It's not to bring any contention. And some people say, well, why even go there? You should be at this other level. I'm sorry. I gave a commitment to speak forth whatever it is that they want to say and then help to shed light on a topic. It does not mean I'm condoning or promoting anything, but we're just trying to discuss and shed light on it. Okay, so Andronicus, what does this say? Andronicus just has the generic sound in the beginning, right?
Yeah, he's just got the harp.
The harp.
Because that's where we started. So, and when I say standard orbit, Captain, it means like that standard orbit is the harp sound. That's just my crazy Star Trek mind. Anyway. Where do we go from here? So much is happening around you, and I am sitting, observing like a swami, suspended in time in deep meditative expansion. I am everywhere at once, lifted, floating, numbers floating around me in ongoing calculations. I feel exponential. I am weightless with bliss and satisfied to my very core. A part of me wants to reach out and stop time, fix the clock, cure the cells and atoms, heal the core, strike the alarm, and yet I dare not. If I dare touch one thing out of turn, the construct dissembles and we don't know what direction it will land. I sustain you now while the hands of light reach down and pick up the specks of distraction and misplaced pieces of time to reconstruct the fragments of the unseen implosion.
What are you referring to? I can see that we are reconstructing something like a puzzle. The molecules that make up the very light time frequency pixels and artifacts of essence, all being suspended at once. What implosion?
The implosion in my mind without remembering that my mind was connected to the construct. I kept forgetting that I was a foundation. I have no other way to describe it. I was angered by the actions of the green planet. It was the only happiness I could find amidst my castaway life. I react too strongly, holding the emotions in like a boiling liquid in a sealed container. When it reaches an intensity, it implodes to a depth that one can't imagine. My roots are deep into the constructs of the universe. I remember I was much more ancient than I originally remember. I can now see my existence precedes Andromeda. I can now see that I had left all to journey, and the father that I had seen of my own was actually a vision of myself. I am the father who abandoned all to journey. I am creating realities without intention. They flow from me like a living water or stream. I have decided to return back to the waters and abandon the herbal flasks of elixirs to rebuild the foundations I had unintentionally torn asunder. It was me. It was me. I had created much of this mess and didn't realize it. Now I see why they, Rhodan and the others, treat me this way. They're disappointed in me. They are tired of being the cleanup crew. Can't say I blame them much. There is a piece that I'd been searching for. One long strand of time, thinly sliced and running onward independently. I also see many attached to it. Let me advance them as they linger in an alternate space into our present time. There may be some oddities occurring, but you will all manage it.
So, it was this implosion that created the separate alternative timelines? Or how did the beings, or even humans, get on the alternate sliver of time?
It is much more than a sliver. It is over 1,000 years of time and evolution that was separate from the other reality that should have all been in one. It is a fracture of time-space that created this anomaly. But sometimes these little fragments of time become the most interesting. It is a place where the most amazing discoveries can occur. They further separate and reframe their existence in the most intriguing way as a result of a separation. They, humans and other species, are aware of the fragmentation and yet choose to follow it, not knowing what is ahead or even if they will survive it. The humans are unique, adventurous and fearless, taking all adversities and thriving.
Is this the alternative timeline Peter was mentioning where the Nazis won the war?
That's how he perceived it, but because it happened in the fractured point of World War II, but then extended back in time and forward in time, as he mentions, this is their reality and how it works. The point of fracture was in the 1950s, but created a new reality 1,000 years backwards that didn't happen on your timeline. Then it was brought forward into a future that you don't know about. They thrive in the way that the original timeline didn't. They chose to be a part of this experience. The primary and obvious problem was the cruelty and murderous behavior. I helped you integrate and release some of the souls and species who contributed and fed off this cruelty. I had you integrate the reality of Mussolini and a fascist party to discover that Mussolini had walked in from another planet, here, to bring in a mass destruction. The other species, carrying on an age-old war of the Vinkala and the Grey Ones. The Grey Ones followed the Nazis, the Vinkala followed the fascists. This was the power struggle that you observed. Rhodan took many of them to Geb to review their interference on the planet. That is when you saw the Grey Ones marching as Nazis. The battle continues as we speak. It is I who had reintegrated the splice back into your timeline to gain knowledge from each other. The alternate group must learn to understand love and tolerance of others. Your timeline must learn to be in order and working together as a team, as a combined force for survival. If I hadn't done this, you would have been bound for future destruction. They have a great insight and can foresee impending doom or destruction, and are very good at dismantling it. If your timeline doesn't survive, they will float through time perpetuated in a loop. It will be an endless loop because their timeline isn't continuous as yours. I had no other option but to merge the two realities at this time. I know this has brought great discomfort for you and many others. I know this is not your problem, but a creation and mishap of the Foundations. However, it is something that must be addressed now that all species that are involved are currently present on the planet. It is a do-or-die situation. All of you must work together or no one survives as you should in a way of harmony and good. Tell me, how is your endurance? Can you manage dealing with this for a while longer? I know you get weary of the controversy, etheric attacks and other problems associated with it. Please be understanding about the situation. It was the only way to resolve the many issues and incorrect paths of humanity that kept them on an endless treadmill that they often moan about. Such is the reality as you know it. It does not need to remain this way. You are a brilliant species filled with sparks of unimaginable light and glory. Don't just take my word. Search deep within you to discover if this is truth. There. The sliver is now set firmly back into the timeline. None can now dissemble what has become whole. I must go now. There is a rumble in the fortress. Others are trying to jump in. Farewell, Andronicus. You got a little phone thing at the same time as the harp thing. He's like, what's that? Oh, it's the harp. Yeah, they blended together in this bizarre way. So, Andronicus, it's all his fault. Actually, more or less, here we are. This is his confession, isn't it? This whole
the convergence of the timelines. Yeah, he's finally come clean and said that he did it, but not intentionally. He imploded and so created splinters, and this one created an alternate. The thing that happened when he started talking about it, I started getting a vision of it almost reminded me of the Bering Straits, when people crossed over. And the two land masses being joined together at one point, and yet they were going into another portion of the world, at some point that separates. In this experience, somehow I saw a landmass that went into a place of the unknown, and it was like a Bering Strait connecting the two timelines. And then at some point they either they separated or they just ran parallel. But I remembered it when he started talking about it, almost as if like I had the choice to go into that timeline, or maybe I did for a little while and then came back out. So it sounded very familiar. And what I think happened was humanity, where they were getting into time travel, they were getting into all these other things during that time with the we talk about the time traveling Nazis. Did they step into another reality? This reality, the splinter, and then the splinter almost like enabled them to get the backstory and another backstory. Like the history that preceded it was different than ours. And then, afterwards, creating a different future because their approach was much more in a survival mode, more prepared for survival and forward thinking. Whereas we weren't forward thinking. We're kind of caught in our thoughts and our mess. And they kind of have more clarity and see through that and work toward it. But yet on the other hand, we have more love and consciousness. And so he thought it was best to integrate the both. And that we would have to interface once again. So now they were no longer the separate island. They had to deal with whatever this experience was, or is right now.
So,
and
I'm sorry.
And he said that this is the best way for our survival as humanity moves forward, because they know how to survive, and we're going to have to learn that from them. But they're going to have to learn how to be more tolerant and understanding. And I don't know. That's just the way he said it.
Well, this ties perfectly in with what Peter's been saying about the pocket universe.
Yeah.
And the Nazis are the way forward. So it's like we're our timeline, or what we feel is our timeline, where everything's, where the Nazis weren't successful, is merging with that other timeline where they've learned other things and they've got a completely different past as well as a completely different potential future. But he's hooked them back and they're now a kind of loop. So it may be that that loop will then detach from this timeline after a certain while. I don't know. No, he says we're gonna merge. So we're gonna have to live with these Nazis. So how do we contain them so they don't harm us? That's the thing. How do we stop them harming us? How do we stop the snake biting us without being cruel to them in the way that they are cruel to others?
Well, they don't have control. I mean, they have like this whole other reality that it might have worked, that they control their own reality, but they can't control our reality. I mean, even if they wanted to, humans are just not. You just can't control a lot of people in our society. That you can create some parameters, but their thinking is just all over the place. And so, but they're more, from my impression, is they're more succinct. They're more like, it's very, very, linear, extremely linear and very obvious and simple. Where we have our complexities and the ADHD type of thinking where, we've been programmed, I won't say programmed, but we've been kind of influenced by mass media and our thoughts are like all over the place. And so you have two different mindsets and constructs coming together and, one's going to bounce off of the other and maybe they'll have some persuasion somewhere and not be very successful in another, but not so much of retaliation, but because they're not in the same wavelength. That's my impression.
I tell you, this show has got so many sound effects in it. I don't know, they're just like, are you in the middle of a New York street or something?
Hold on a second.
It's okay. It's okay. It's cool. It's cool because there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's your phones and the sound and that's all right. It just adds to the realism of this, the totally live, spontaneous show that we do. It's all real.
Yeah.
So.
Not actors.
Yeah, that's right. We're not even actors.
I know. Although you're pretty good at it, JP. I'll tell you, you're amazing. How you can just take on the persona of someone just by, you start reading and you sort of become that person in a way.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like, obviously, I do Ray readings and I tune into people's soul. So there must be something in that can facilitate me being able to read and tune in.
There's something else that happened too this week, which was really, really strange to me, and we had a bit of a conversation on it, and I copied the conversation. Of course, I would not. Some of the exchange wasn't necessarily related, but was my view of I had a clear image of David Bowie, but they call him Dag. And I contacted you about that. Now, I don't know how you feel about me sharing some of it. Or
Some of the less personal stuff, because, you know,
there's no, I cut out all the personal stuff.
So, do you want me to read it? Yep, okay.
Sure, yeah, you can kind of read through, and then pieces that you don't want to include, you just exclude it.
Oh, okay.
Now, we're going to talk about people that you know as celebrities. So Mick Jagger is also brought up, and I'll go into more depth. And so don't everyone. I mean, I don't know. Is this legal? Not legal? I don't want anyone contacting me like, oh, you don't have a right to say that about a celebrity. What do you think, JP? Is it okay?
Well, I mean, people say all sorts of things. I mean, look at what people say all over YouTube about what David Bowie's he's an evil Illuminati, and they say he's a this and he's a that. He is who he is, as we all are who we are, and, so,
he's a very evolved being.
Yeah.
And, this was the conversation that he had with me, and he revealed to me that, Mick was from his, I don't know if it was, I want to say planet or from his same group or whatever, but, alright, go ahead and read it and then we'll sort it out from there.
Okay, so, so we start at the second page of this, so, you say to this, that Dag is still connecting, okay?
Yeah.
Hang on, let's have a quick... That's David Bowie's sound. This is the first chord of Changes. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, are you going to read it? Or?
Well, it's your part where you say Dag is still connecting with me.
Alright, let's see.
Page 2. Hang on, I'll just play
also that when he came through, I could see him and he was like wanting to have a message for you, a personal message. And I heard this song called The Defector.
Alright, I don't know that one.
Which was singing about the New World Order. And I thought that was really strange. Maybe we can listen to that, I don't know if we have time. And then, Bell X-1 may be the name of the band. So the name of the band was Bell, like the Nazi Bell. X1.
Bell X1. Uh-huh.
Right. And so, let's see.
So you start there as Dag is still connecting with me, or conversation with me.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for that spot. So it's second page.
Second page.
Okay, here it is. Dag is still connecting with me, and he's showing me Mick Jagger getting lost. Which he was worried that Mick Jagger was going to get lost because he was another one of the star children, or he was like a star child. He also said he was one of my partners, Hang
on, one of your partners or one of his partners?
One of his partners. So,
all right, so I'll read that. I'll read what Dag says. So Dag says, he was one of my partners in another time space, but was embarrassed of me, or to be with me on Earth. I understand and don't hold it against him, but it hurt. I still don't want him to get lost. Can you help me? I'm flying solo now, feeling more in my power than ever before, much more whole. I'm taking back what belongs to me. I'm confiding in the both of you about my plans of our future. Please don't tell anyone. So
Yes.
I was feeling very. I mean, I got a very emotional feeling from this. It was
Yeah.
very. There was a great feeling of love for him, and gratefulness for what he's, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of music to the world. Of new music, new stuff. Really
Right.
different and creative. Anyhow.
Yeah. And-
So I say much love to Dag. The forces...
And then-
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jess?
No, go ahead, that's you.
Yeah. The forces are changing more than ever before. It is a system that is new, but it is not anything that has ever happened on Earth before. I know you're I know you're apprehensive, but I want you to trust me. My earthly desires are gone. I am now on to much higher things. I don't need anyone's approval. I know who I am. I want you to know who you are as well, and others who I love and care about. Mick has not sold his soul to the devil. He's lost and in fear. He needed power to contain himself in. You don't understand. We are accustomed to having power. He did what he needed to do to survive. And kind of gets devoured our kind gets devoured in your world.
Calls you Jay.
Yeah, Jay, we've been watching you for a long time and have given you the power to sustain yourself through these difficult changes. You will stand and last longer than many of those who have come against you. Me and your power now is nothing to fear. Don't hold back. We are watching over you. Thank you, David. Then there's some personal stuff.
He said something about these beings are
Yeah.
not meant to be on the planet they harness too much trickery for most humans to handle, even an exceptional one such as yourself. You are hardly anyone's fool.
I want to tell you a story. Long ago, I was the man falling to earth. The real reason was to find my partner who insisted on living on this planet. I didn't have any interest in it, but it felt like I needed to be with him. That was Mick Jagger. If anyone knew our connection, we would have been highly compromised. I made him forget, so it wouldn't be dangerous for either one of us. You can imagine my sorrow and anger about all the different things that happened that many don't know about. When I came here, I realized that there are things that I could change. That's my song, Changes. I don't regret coming to the earth after all. Humans understand. After all, there are humans understand here that I thought I would.
That after all, humans understand me here.
All right. God bless the whole bunch of them. I would bless them when they came to my seeing me. And God bless the whole bunch of them. I would bless them when they came to see me in concert and hear me sing songs to them. It was my love I had for all living things. I also had anger for those that were against it. I appreciate you like my work, but don't see me as above you. See me as your friend. See me as your cohort. Brown is the new grey. The rhythm and the tones help rebuild the atmosphere. They are trying to cut it down again. Follow the path of Mick. It will be revealing. I guess Mick thought he was the son of Creighton.
Yeah, and then there was that song that came up. But the story is I saw them. He said he saw himself as a man falling to the earth. It's because it was the being that we know as Mick Jagger, I guess. That's the way he's saying it, so apologize if it's offensive to anybody, but he said that they were like brothers or something. They were very connected. Or they could have been mates. I'm not really sure how he meant it, but Mick was insisting that he wanted to come into this reality, and he felt that he was connected to Creighton and just wanted to be here in this experience. And Dag, they call David Bowie, Dag didn't want. It's funny because I don't know what Mick's name is out there, but I know what David's name is. And so Dag followed him felt like he was in trouble for coming here and was making sure that he was going to be okay. And, realizing that he couldn't persuade or change him to leave. Or he decided to, experience living here as himself, and then, saw that he had the ability to actually help and assist. And so it was actually a good thing that they both came. And, of course, Mick having his own expression in one way, and then David having his expression in another way. But his concern is that it was time for him to leave, and it's time for both of them to leave. And, Mick, when he does, they want to make sure that he goes back to the place where he came rather than getting caught in the karmic cycle. So something like that. I don't know. That was the story he gave me, and he didn't give me any more.
When he said Mick Jagger, the first time he mentioned Mick, I immediately thought of that fantastic video they did of Dancing in the Street, where they were just so perfectly in harmony. And you could see, there is an energy between them. And it's not just a kind of gay rock star thing. There is just a harmony, just like Soul Brothers, And, that must have been pretty difficult for Bowie to see Jagger. I mean, don't get me wrong. Bowie did do his fair share of powder, and probably snorted several kilos worth over his time. But Mick was much more diving into the depth of it, wasn't he?
And Mick is still here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mick was here first, before him.
So maybe it comes out as it goes in.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know. I mean, I didn't recognize that there was actually a strong connection between them. I mean, of course, like you said, they all kind of know each other. People that are in that industry recognize each other and are often friends, because they can relate to the lifestyle and everything else.
Oh, well, they're all, I mean, if you're in a scene, the music scene in London is a very small place. It happens in at that time, certainly, it happened in one very small place. And so everybody really did know each other. And they were all going to these nightclubs after the gigs, and how it was very, how would you say, incestuous, potentially, also literally. But there was, everybody knew each other, and everybody hung out with each other, and, there were some bands that went home earlier than others, let's put it that way. And I'd say the Stones were the ones to stay all the time, they're the ones who are still there at sort of 8 o'clock the next morning after a party, And, Keith's there still drinking.
I have yet to talk to, Kraton about it, because I'm not sure if he said he thought he was a son of Kraton. And, I don't know. I haven't talked to Kraton about that. Would have been an interesting discussion. Maybe I'll get into that next week.
I have the song, by the way.
Any more? You have the song?
I have the song, yeah. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
The Defector by Bell X1. And welcome back.
Yeah.
That's the Great Defector by Bell X1. Let's start a new world order, indeed. There we go.
Can you believe that? And that was actually playing when Dad came through.
It has a very much a kind of Talking Heads feel in the second half of it, and the first half sounded it also sounded kind of familiar. I couldn't quite put it, kind of REM. Kind of REM meets Talking Heads kind of feeling to it. It's similar to the song, that my theme song for the beginning of the show. Yeah.
Is, we were, dealing with Meetis, and he was doing all of his kind of medieval stuff. And when I heard that song, it was almost as if like they knew our story.
Yeah.
They knew the story, and going back into the Back into the Future, and that whole
We
beginning
came from
of
the
lyric.
future to go back to the past.
That's right.
And, that again, same theme as the, this timeline fragment. So this is very interesting that he said it arrived in the 1950s, and that's what they said. This thing, the Archons, arrived in the 1950s. Some people say the 30s. There are various, different ideas, but that they were in a timeline that already existed for 1,000 years, or that because of the intrusion created a timeline that kind of previously existed itself for 1,000 years. Does that make sense?
It was an implosion. Andronicus had an implosion of anger that messed with our timelines. That's what he claims. So it was his implosion, and then he explained and he described this one. He was putting together all the pieces, and he was suspended, levitating, and emitting calculations coming off of him.
Oh, that's what you saw when you first when the transmission first started.
Yeah.
Do you want to describe that a little bit?
It just looks like numbers and symbols and other things, which is the language of the foundations. And I say the foundations of the universe on an atomic level, where all the programming of whatever, or however it was designed. I don't know who the master designer is. I don't know if anyone does. Because it almost looks like they loop around and then they're hard to find. Like Andronicus, he saw himself as an Andromedan and then discovers he's from even further back, and what he thought he was his father. He thought he was observing his father leave his mother, and it was actually him leaving his wife. So, and then my door just opens up unnaturally. He's just trying to explain. So he's levitating. These numbers, calculations are just coming off of him because this is what he can naturally do. It's almost like the story of that movie Jumpers, where the kid's sitting there and through an emotion, he is able to jump through a door or a wall or go into another place, and he doesn't know how he does it because it's nothing that he thought about trying to construct. It is just an ability that's innate.
Yeah, they normally come out through the application of adrenaline. Adrenaline turns you into a super being. Mm-hmm. Consider my cat. That cat that you saw today, I'm not kidding, she is tiny. She's like, she's at the size of a kitten, right? She's about 7 years old now. But now I've got a 6-foot door, right? And she jumped higher than the door onto the shelf above the door, ran across that. Just basically looked for every single high point on, tried to get as high as she could, as fast as she could, and jumped up on these shelves that are 6 foot up in the air. Just like
wow.
I mean, super cat. She was really super cat, and she was literally bouncing off the walls and running up and along the walls. I'm not kidding. She was like literally running along the wall, not up the wall, but along it.
That's like something a squirrel would do, or like a
yeah. So I mean, because she's tiny and she's got these little claws that hold on to things. So it's quite. But there you go. So that's what happens when you've got adrenaline. That's how these. Whenever you saw these TV series like Heroes, whenever the people had superpowers that were activated, first of all there was an eclipse. That's the first thing that activates superpowers. And then when they were distressed, and adrenaline was flowing. So, and really, the reason that you have fear is that fight or flight response. Well, if you focus it towards fight, then amazing things can happen. You've seen you've seen women who have like defended their babies against bears and stuff and scared the bear away. Yeah, right, well, now we know even Brian Blessed can do that. But, so shall we move on to Yon Troubadour and see what he has to say?
Meetis.
Meetis, hello. Hang on.
There's a little song in the end too. Just so.
Oh, hello. Just when we claim we know it all, it vanishes into nothing. And there we are, standing alone on display as a fool. I have mentioned about Proud and those who claim to run the galaxies. Many have fallen hard to Earth's floor. In my journey, I have met all the mighty ones. I stood before Alexander the Great and had him on his knees begging me to please him. I stood before Genghis Khan, and only with a few words he became mesmerized by my power. I knew his weakness. I talked to Napoleon and convinced him to challenge the great gods of Egypt. His face grew pale and he was humbled to nothing before he left. This is how we dissemble those who take what doesn't belong to them. We bring them to their knees. A word to the wise. Be humble and pure in heart. Don't take the false flattery and treacherous desires of power, or I may find you. I have many disguises and expressions. One day I can be wealthy and tall and dark and handsome. On another day I could be a lowly, impoverished woman begging for food. One never knows how I may appear. I will say that I'm not here to bring you fear, but to remember to treat one another with kindness. I want to tell you a story about a dynasty that didn't last very long. The brothers were handsome, the sisters divine. The playfulness was contagious, so the world gave them champagne and wine. Until one day they were guided away, and then their blessings began to sway. For that family it became a very dark day. 2 brothers were killed and many others pursued. It all happened in one generation that bled into the new. It was the sorrow of a nation, it was the sadness of time, when promise was at your fingertips, but then tragedy changed the history of time.
Are you talking about the Kennedys?
Yes, my sweet. We blessed them to help and reveal the truth and build a fortress to support your nation. Then the others arrived.
Who were the others?
The beasts. They are far from human. The dormant beasts who are awakened by the consciousness of the time. They only come up when the mass population drops too low. At that time we lost control. There were too many unseen to your eyes. Much too many who made the masses cry. I was sorrowful as well. The brothers were my friends. I weep a bit when I think of them. You knew, and still know one very well. He has learned so much this time around. Here is a song for you. Peace, peace, peace. When will there be peace? A family chosen from birth, the broken soil of earth, all attributed to a curse. Peace, peace? Peace. When will there be peace? It was the masses who fought in their hearts. Let the ruler take responsible for it all. We don't have any purpose or know what will happen to us if they go. None represents you at all. Your individual soul is always on call. Find the answers within and without, and stop blaming others for how it all works out.
Very nice.
There you go.
A lot of music today.
Yeah, lots of music today. It's been a very musical week on the station, and it's June. It's happy full moons and weddings and blossom falling on the ground and getting trodden underfoot and coming into the kitchen floor. And anyway, no, but lovely, beautiful. It's, the rowan blossom fell this week, and the rowan blossom are really, really like about 3 millimeter petals. So the ground is covered with these very fine white petals and chicken feed.
How do you think the rooster and the chickens are going to take to the cat?
The cat will not see them for months. I mean, I tell you, she is the shyest creature I've ever met, and she's sitting on the top of that cupboard, and she hasn't moved since then. When she first came to our house at the other house, she and her brother, who subsequently escaped and ran away, but she and her brother just they did this kind of superhuman or super kitten thing, and like zipped like thousands of miles an hour around the kitchen until they found a place where they felt comfortable. And we couldn't find them anywhere, and I just like, where are they? And eventually we looked in the corner of the room, and in the corner where the pipes, the kitchen, the hot water pipe and for the taps and all that stuff, there was a little recess where they were, and they were hiding behind the pipes. And you would just see these two pairs of eyes looking out from this in this dark cupboard. And I was like, oh, little ones, they were so timid. That's what I like. I like about feral creatures. They're slightly wild, and I've always had slightly feral cats. I've always had a thing about feral cats.
Yeah.
I like their lack of domestication. I like their shyness of humans because we are intense for them. And that's why ETs are scared of us. We're really intense to them. They can feel everything that we're feeling, and if we have emotion, it knocks them out. That's why they have to paralyze us, so we don't have emotions at them. Do you remember Captain Kirk in one of the very first shows? I don't know if it was Kirk or even if it was the other captain. They put them in. It's called the cage, and they put them in the cage, and he projected such hatred towards them that it kind of burst out their imaginary cell. So anyway, long story.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about, the superpowers, not realizing that we have this effect, or people are highly sensitive. It's like having their sense of hearing is increased, and they can hear every little thing and details, and everyone has there's different aspects of abilities that some people have over others, and we just interpreted those as talents. Someone was describing how her daughter could hear every single instrument in an orchestra.
Yeah.
And could hear which one was off tune.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a gift.
That's a gift that someone like myself who listens to this I wish I could do that. that takes a lot of lots of very fine calculations in the brain, to do that sort of stuff. Because it's a spatial thing, You're judging a frequency of something from a specific direction among hundreds of other sounds. It's amazing.
Well, this weekend was a very interesting weekend. We had that terrible incident in Orlando where a lot
terrible
of
news
people
reports.
died. And according to the news reports, a lot of people that had an alternative lifestyle got brutally murdered, and under the guise of a religion, which doesn't make sense to me. Mm. And then on top of that, they use a sacred name as Isis, who is a deity, which is another problem.
That is another problem.
I don't care if it's an acronym. I don't care what anyone says. It carries another problem that's residual. So
yeah.
But on the counter part of it, I was at a friend of mine's wedding, who has an alternate lifestyle herself, and there was a lesbian wedding in a beautiful location up in York, Maine, and it was interesting. It all happened in the same weekend. And here I am looking at, this is not my orientation, but I love everyone, so it doesn't matter. And so I was just looking around saying, look how harmonious this is. It was beautiful. The weather was pleasant, and here's this couple that really loved each other and wanted to be together, and where I live, it's legal to be married. And so they tied the knot. And, there must be something in the air, JP. I don't know, but I was very happy for them.
Excellent. So, it's June. Lots of people get married in June because it's like you can almost guarantee that you might even possibly have a sunny day. It's the first month of the year where you can say, yeah, it's definitely going to be sunny. Ha ha ha. Welcome to Scotland, where winter doesn't even know that it shouldn't have finished.
On the other hand, there's one of my friends over in the UK who has been telling me about some things going on in the sky, and I'm going to do a little bit more research into that. But yeah, lots and lots of rain over there, huh? More so than usual, or is it just typical?
Well, it's kind of typical for here, but that's why this place is so beautiful and green and full of mist, because it rains all the time. Jessica, we're out of time for now. Yes. I actually have a show. I have a full spectrum show in a few minutes' time with Wynn Keach again, and we'll explore some more stuff about energy and how to live off the grid and what to do and stuff. So, thank you very much.
Topic. Thank you so much, JP. And thank you also to Feather as well for joining us today.
Indeed. So, don't forget, everybody, readingsbyral.com. Book your session with one of the most talented mediums around.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right.
We came from the future by way of the past. I bought my ticket for the 15th century.